Well, hey, Shepherd Church. My name is Derek Lopez, and yes, that is how you spell my name, Derick. I remember as a little kid, I used to always have to teach my teachers how to say and pronounce my name. They used to say, is there a Derick or a Derick in the classroom? And I used to raise my hand and I used to say, that's me, it's Derek. And after doing that so many times, one day I came home to my mom and I said, Mom, why did you name me that? Why did you name me Derek? Why did you spell my name that way? My mom, she looked me in my eyes and she said, well, son, it's because I wanted you to be different. I wanted people to remember you. And so that's how I got my name. Today in Hebrews 11, I get to share with you guys one of the greatest characters in all of the Bible. I promise you, when I say his name, instantly, a picture is going to come into your head. So are you ready? Moses. Moses. Now, what did you think of? Did you think of Charlton Heston holding the Ten Commandments? Did you think of the song, Let My People Go from the Prince of Egypt? Did you think of the burning bush? Did you think of the time when he led the people through the Red Sea? Because there's so many things that Moses did. He left a legacy that will never be forgotten. Did you also know that Moses' name meant drawn from the water? His mother gave him that name. But of all the things we could say about Moses, do you know what the Hebrew writer chooses to say in the text? Can I show you? In verse 24, it says this, by faith Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. And so some of you may be wondering, why is that such a big deal? Well, refusing Pharaoh meant refusing the lifestyle and the privileges that came with that. Can we place ourselves in Moses' shoes really fast? Everything that you saw would have been yours. From the time you woke up, you could have said this, oh, I want to eat that today. I want to drive this today. I want to go there. I want to talk to this person. Would you do it? Would you refuse? Because choosing that meant choosing to worship Egyptian gods. And more importantly, choosing that meant watching your fellow Israelites day in and day out be mistreated. So what would you choose? And yet Moses says no. Why would you do that? Why would you leave the palace to live in the slums? Why would you dine when the king and instead choose to be with the broken and the oppressed? Who does that? I mean, Disney's not making those kind of movies. This is Aladdin backwards. You know what the text says? It says it right here. He says in verse 25, he chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. See, at that time, it was very popular for the Pharaoh to build these giant pyramids for them and for their families. And they would store all of their wealth and all of their possessions in these massive pyramids. You could still go to Egypt and see it today. And Moses says, I don't need a pyramid because I know that my Father, my Heavenly Father, my God has prepared a room for me. How did he do that? Well, in verse 26, he says this, he regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt because he was looking ahead to his reward. Shepherd Church, what are you looking ahead towards? Is it our graduations? Is it our job promotions? Is it our retirements? Is it COVID-19? Are we looking towards the return of Christ? The day that we get to be side by side with him again. What are you looking towards? See, Moses, he refused the king that he could see so to choose and follow a God that he couldn't. Because before he could lead Israel, he had to refuse Egypt. Before he could set the people free, he had to be freed from the pleasures of his flesh. He chose to be mistreated in this life because he knew that in the next, he would live forever in peace with his God. Who would have thought that the child that was drawn from the water would eventually lead the people through the water? And as I close, we as Christians, we get to know Jesus in a way that Moses never did. See, Moses, he didn't get a New Testament like we do in our Bibles. He didn't get a new covenant. But can I show you this verse in Genesis 3 really quick? Can I show it to you? Genesis 3:15, it says this, "And I will put an enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." I don't know if you know this, but Moses wrote that. In fact, he wrote the first couple books of the Old Testament. And if that promise was enough for Moses, if that promise was enough for the nation of Israel, then what more do we need? Because we have a New Testament, and we get to see the way that Jesus lived his life out, and we get to see the restoration in which he brought, and we get to see the freedom that he brought as well. But more importantly, we get to see a death on a cross, a death for you, a death for me. What more do we need to refuse our Egypt, to refuse our Pharaoh, and choose our God? Leaving a legacy requires a faith to refuse. So then, Shepherd Church, what will you choose?